This is CBC Vancouver News.
If student came here with the intention of study and he have done that, please give a justice to them.
Facing deportation, all thanks to a suspected scam targeting 150 international students across Canada. We hear from one in BC. Plus,
where are the long-term solutions? We keep doing these band-aids over massive gaping wounds in our society.
the province will replace an encampment in Abbotsford with a temporary shelter. The question from critics, is it enough? And
right now, our geotechnical engineers are on site looking at that challenging slope above the road. It's very dangerous work.
a long road ahead for residents in cut-off communities on Vancouver Island. Highway 4 will be shut down for at least another week. Good evening, I'm Tanya Fletcher. Dan is away tonight. Fears of deportation fueled by a suspected scam. More than 150 international students across Canada could be ordered out of the country. And it's all because they were allegedly conned by foreign consultants promising a pathway to an education and a future here. Joel Ballard introduces us to one BC student who's caught in the center of it all.
Balbir Singh's dream was clear. Move to Canada, earn an education, and build a better life. But now, that dream could be shattered.
Right now, I'm under stress.
In India, Singh and his family paid tens of thousands of dollars to recruiters to get a student visa and an acceptance letter to a Canadian college, unaware it was an alleged scam. After completing his education, Singh applied for permanent residency, only to be told by the Canadian Border Services Agency that his original school acceptance letter was fake.
So I was shocked, like how this thing can happen, how I can got my visa approved, how I can got my work permit approved. I was completely shocked. I was totally numb. I can't even say a word at that time.
Now, Singh has been deemed inadmissible in Canada for misrepresentation. His case under judicial review. In Ontario, international students facing the same scam have been holding an ongoing protest, supported by advocacy groups.
Many of these students have spent more than half a decade of their lives here. They're in their early 20s, their friends are here, their loved ones are here, and because they are facing unfair punishment and these unjust deportations, all of that can be taken away.
A petition calling on the federal government to stop deportations has collected thousands of signatures, their plight garnering support from inside the walls of Parliament.
We need to actually do everything we can for the genuine victims of this fraud scam, for them to be made whole.
Kwan recently moved a pair of motions calling for deportations to be stayed, inadmissibility to be waived, and to work with the students towards permanent residency. Canada's Minister of Immigration said this week he's working to develop a process to ensure victims of fraud can stay in Canada.
However, to the extent that people committed fraud or were complicit in a fraudulent scheme, they will bear the consequences of choosing not to follow Canada's laws.
Back in Delta, Singh has a plea of his own.
Just try to find the intention of these students. If you find that any student whose intention is wrong, I'm gonna say just send him back. But if student came here with the intention of study and he have done that, please give a justice to them.
Joel Ballard, CBC News, Delta.
It is the province's solution to what it calls a problematic encampment in Abbotsford. Tear it down and build temporary housing in its place. But as our Zara Premji is finding out, some living in that tent city say they're not going anywhere.
Well, it's a good idea. It's not for me.
79-year-old Paul Shearer has lived at Lonzo Park and Ride for the last 4 to 5 months. He's one of about 15 people still left in the community. At least 100 people used to call it home. And while he commends the province for building more housing, he says he isn't willing to part ways with his RV.
This is my home. You know, I don't want to lose it. You know, I'm not going to give it away. You know, I'm comfortable, sort of.
And he can't see himself going into government housing again.
It's like a cell. It's like jail.
The province says anyone still living at Lonzo Park and Ride off Sumas Way in tents and RVs will be moved to safe indoor spaces, all while a new temporary 50-bed shelter will be built on the encampment site. But everyone needs to leave in order for construction to start.
If you do not leave the land and remove your personal property by June 26, 2023, you will be trespassing, which is an offense under the Trespass Act.
Housing Minister Ravi Kahlon says the new temporary shelter is expected to be ready by late fall.
We will have 24-hour support services there, meals, wellness supports, health-related supports.
It will be open for up to 18 months before a new permanent location is chosen. Advocates say such moves are hard on vulnerable people.
To me, it's just a game. To me, it just seems like a game, an endless game, because you're playing with the lives of real humans.
And he adds whatever housing is built has taken far too long.
We know we need housing. Just build housing, right? Like, why is this a constant discussion?
The province says it knows this housing will not solve the problem for those without permanent homes in Abbotsford, but it hopes it's a start. Zara Premji, CBC News, Abbotsford.
An urgent and primary health care centre in downtown Vancouver has halted some services, and it's all because of a legal battle with the BC government. Seymour Health is a private company. It's hired out to run a couple of BC's urgent and primary care centres. City Centre Clinic downtown was always promised as a location to do diagnostic testing like x-rays and ultrasounds. Those at Seymour Health say when they started, they were told they would be able to pay for those services by billing MSP. But they never got approved for the necessary licenses to be able to send those bills to MSP. So they've been paying millions of dollars out of pocket to do so. City Centre Clinic has now stopped doing those diagnostic tests because of these legal issues. One of the head doctors there says many patients would come to them usually with urgent conditions like blood clots, appendicitis, or pregnancy complications. And now
we're not able to do it, and we have to send people elsewhere. So unfortunately, when our patients are coming to us at their most distressed state, we're having to tell them that they can't go and get the test done right now, even though we have the facilities down the hall. We have to send them elsewhere. So it's heartbreaking for us.
For its part, Vancouver Coastal Health says it does not have a role in the MSP billing issue. That's solely between the clinic and the province. But VCH says Seymour Health's financial problems go way beyond this billing dispute, dating back 4 years even. VCH says an external audit last fall found that Seymour Health couldn't continue running the clinic properly, so VCH is now going to court to try to take it over themselves.
We took the steps that we have taken to make sure that we can keep the urgent primary care center and the primary care clinic for those 70,000 patients open, and they can have continuous service. We want to make sure that those services do continue, which is why we are taking the court action that we felt was necessary.
He says VCH plans to keep the diagnostics open if it does take over this clinic, but didn't provide specifics around funding. We should say, by the way, we have reached out to the province for comment as well. It will be at least another week before Highway 4 reopens to even single-lane traffic. It's the only highway that serves the west coast of Vancouver Island, including Port Alberni and Tofino. And as our Mira Baines reports, the Transportation Minister expects it'll be mid-July before the route fully reopens.
The Cameron Bluffs wildfire continues to burn as highway crews assess damage from falling rocks and trees. Firefighting crews continue to work on the 2.5 square kilometer fire, dumping water from the lake.
It looked like lava coming down the mountain. Very scary. Then lots of action here.
The fire is adjacent to Highway 4, which has been closed for about a week. The only paved route in and out of many Western Island communities, including Tofino, Ucluelet, and Port Alberni. BC's Highways and Infrastructure Minister today provided some degree of certainty on when Highway 4 could reopen.
We expect the highway to be fully closed for at least another week. This is necessary to allow crews to remove dangerous trees and other hazards, to make any road repairs necessary, and to set up protective barriers that may be required to keep people safe when the road is reopened.
Highway 4 was closed after an accident along the route and poor conditions. The ministry's tentative timeline shows Highway 4 opening to single-lane alternating traffic the weekend of June 24th. A full reopening isn't expected until mid-July. The ministry says the timeline will be dependent on weather conditions such as rain and slope stability. When the road does reopen, traffic is expected to move slowly.
I don't expect those are going to be as long as taking the alternate route, but I do want to warn motorists that there will be some delays as we move towards this phased reopening.
So far, supplies are getting through an essential detour route, but businesses are suffering.
We've just fully staffed up for the summer, and now I'm kind of having to cut back on hours and kind of play it by day.
Concerns are growing over lack of tourism, which is a key economic driver for Tofino and nearby communities.
A lot of seasonal staff are not eligible for EI, so if this continues for a lot longer, I really do have great concerns around some of the frontline staff here in Tofino.
Fleming says the province has reached out to the federal government to get help for financial relief for local businesses as the closure continues. Mira Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
To the northeastern part of the province now, and despite calmer winds and some much-needed rain, evacuation alerts have expanded yet again.
They will be around for several weeks. Smoke will be visible. There will be columns of smoke most likely visible from this fire as we move into the core summer months, and it continues to burn on that eastern flank. But we're in a much better place now than we were a couple days ago, for sure.
The BC Wildfire Service says rain in the Tumbler Ridge area has slowed fire activity for now, but there's been no significant rainfall on the Donnie Creek blaze, which continues to burn out of control. Just this afternoon, the Peace River Regional District expanded an evacuation alert there. Both sides of the Alaska Highway are now under either an alert or an order along a 100-mile stretch. That fire is the province's largest and is about 2 kilometers from the highway just north of Trutch. Officials warn traffic may soon be affected as well. The route is popular with RVers heading to Alaska and is a vital transportation link in the north. You're urged to check Drive BC for the latest updates. Well, meanwhile, a handful of Tumbler Ridge residents are being allowed to return home, but only under special circumstances.
Today is my first day back, and we're glad to be home. You have to be aware, though. I have to be aware. I was told I can't go off the property here, and that's fine. I got a freezer full of food, and I'm just glad to be home.
We're expecting between about 10 and 20 millimeters of rain, so we're optimistic that that amount of rain is going to give us about a 2 to 3 day window to really get ahead of things. Certainly going to reduce fire behavior by directly impacting the fire, as well as increasing humidity in the area, which are both definitely good things when it comes to fire behavior.
The some 2,400 residents of Tumbler Ridge have been out of their homes for almost a week now, still under an evacuation order. Some chose to stay behind to help protect their own properties and also help check on neighbors' pets. Most evacuees are staying in Chetwynd, Dawson Creek, or Fort St. John. It's unclear when that evacuation order will be lifted. Less than a decade after it first opened its doors with all kinds of fanfare, Nordstrom's massive Vancouver store has closed for good tonight. Our Benit Brach is finding out how staff and shoppers are feeling about it.
These Nordstrom doors are closing for good, and we wanted to talk to shoppers and workers one last time.
I'll miss it definitely. It was such a bright jewel to the downtown core when it opened. I was the number 3 person in the lineup the morning the store opened back in 2015. Last week they had a lot of shoes on sale for 90% off, and that was a good buy.
Bought some that week?
Yes.
How many pairs?
About 8 pairs. It was on $3,600 worth of shoes for $360.
I opened the store and now I'm closing. Gonna miss it. Gonna miss everything about this company, especially what we built here.
Yeah.
When I heard that they were closing, my phone started blowing off, and it was my customers, because I built a long clientele here, all my colleagues, and just very sad.
And we all found out at once, like same time as the public. So again, it was hard. We are such a tight-knit group. It's like more working with friends than coworkers.
It's very sad, very empty. I'm wondering what's going to go in there next. It's kind of going to be lifeless here for a little bit until something happens.
It's like a cemetery. really, really weird, yeah.
What would you want to see replace the space?
I think it's going to be impossible, but I would love to see a Target, you know.
I hope maybe Simon's comes.
Another department store.
All that's really left is furniture, like this chair, no more clothes. I just see people kind of buying their last-minute things. Vancouver Councillor Peter Meisner says there's been some rumors of an urban IKEA, an Italy, which is like a high-end Italian food store, but nothing has been confirmed yet. But with 230,000 square feet of space, whatever comes next has big shoes to fill. Benit Brach, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, still ahead, Lord Stanley's Cup has a new home. We'll take you through tonight's big win by the Vegas Golden Knights. That's next. And thanks for staying with us for our commercial-free live stream. Well, music legend John Lennon was killed more than 40 years ago, but thanks to artificial intelligence, his voice is now part of a new song. Fellow Beatle Paul McCartney is excited by this merger of music and technology, but as our Chris Brown explains, using AI could also spell trouble for the industry.
For a moment this past summer at Glastonbury's famed music festival, it was as if time turned back almost 50 years. Paul McCartney and John Lennon singing a duet, sending shivers through the audience. Thanks to that same artificial intelligence technology developed for Peter Jackson's documentary series Get Back, McCartney told BBC Radio that the Beatles now have one final song to release together.
It was a demo that John had that we worked on, and we've just finished it up. It'll be released this year.
The song is thought to be Now and Then, written in 1978, 2 years before Lennon was shot to death. 2 other Lennon-composed tracks were released by the surviving band members in 1995, but Now and Then was discarded because Lennon's voice track was too poor quality.
We were able to take John's voice and get it pure through this AI.
Get behind me! At the world's most famous crosswalk, outside the London recording studio where the Fab Four made music history, fans were elated.
Wow, I think that's really beautiful because otherwise we wouldn't have heard that demo.
Artificial intelligence is already transforming the music industry, and not always in good ways, depending on who you ask. There are plenty of examples of fakes, as well as tough ethical and legal questions. AI-generated songs with vocals sounding strikingly like Canadian artists Drake and The Weeknd recently went viral before being pulled from streaming platforms for copyright violations.
Your data should not be used unless you have approved it.
Martin Clancy is a musician, and he chairs a global committee exploring the ethics of AI in the arts. Despite the risks, he wants artists to experiment.
Let's encourage Paul McCartney. Do a whole album, but lead the way, guide us in the way that Sgt. Pepper's inspired so many musicians.
Indeed, in his interview, McCartney says he believes AI's future in music is exciting.
There's a good side to it and then a scary side. And we'll just have to see where that leads.
Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
Trump, we're out here, we're supporting you. Don't give up. No retreat, no surrender. Okay? We're here for you.
And happy pre-birthday!
That's the scene in Miami where Donald Trump made history this afternoon, becoming the first U.S. president to be arraigned on federal criminal charges. Trump pleaded not guilty to 37, all of them. Well, Trump is accused of taking thousands of papers containing national security secrets and then lying to officials who tried to get them back. As the CBC's Chris Reyes reports, the former president claims he did nothing wrong.
It was a morning of great anticipation here at the federal courthouse in Miami, where crowds arrived very early in the morning ahead of Trump's historic indictment. Have a listen to what they said.
It's nice to see a little justice done, a little bit delayed, but long overdue for a case of old 45 here.
Well, this whole thing should be thrown out because Trump did nothing wrong.
I'm here to support the legitimate president. This is third world banana republic tactics.
As scheduled, Trump arrived by motorcade just a little bit before his 3 p.m. arraignment. He entered the courthouse via an underground passage. The full security that's been in place in this area since over the weekend was on full display. He was traveling from his resort in Doral, Florida, which is about a 30-minute drive from here. He stayed there overnight, had dinner with his son, and also his aide, Walt Nauta, who is named in the indictment, also facing charges. Now, upon his arrival, Trump's spokesperson gave a statement outside the courthouse.
What is being done to the President Trump should terrify all citizens of this country. These are not the ideals that our democracy is founded upon. And this is not our America.
Once inside, Trump was booked and processed. No mugshot was taken. He faced a federal magistrate. This is the judicial officer in charge of pretrial proceedings. He entered a plea of not guilty to all 37 charges in connection to the alleged mishandling of classified documents after he left the White House in 2021. He was released on his own recognizance without bail or any restrictions. He then left the courthouse with a large crowd gathered outside cheering him on. He's headed to Bedminster, New Jersey tonight, where he's expected to make a public statement at a fundraiser. Chris Reyes, CBC News, Miami.
Elsewhere stateside, tonight the Vegas Golden Knights have been crowned NHL champions.
Cup's gonna stay in Vegas, and for the first time, the Golden Knights are Stanley Cup champions.
Yes, the team captured its first Stanley Cup in the franchise's short history, defeating the Florida Panthers in 5 games. The Golden Knights burst into the league just 6 years ago, making it all the way to their finals in their inaugural season, but only to come up short. Tonight, they finished the job, winning the Cup and on home ice to boot. Here's a live shot of Cambie Street, Vancouver City Hall there in the distance. Well, it was another sunny day on the South Coast, but how long before the rain returns? Well, Johanna will join us with your 5-day forecast. That's next.
Well, it's convenient. It's nice to have a neighborhood theater to come to. The parking's no problem. They usually get pretty good movies, and I don't like going downtown to theaters.
Why?
Because I work down there, and I want to avoid it when I can.
Carol Martin has been coming to the Dunbar Theater once a month for the past 15 years.
It seems that all the theaters now are getting to be these complexes, 6. And they're not comfortable seats. There's comfortable seats in here. We have a louder crowd downtown. You know, you've got the yahoos and you've got the ones throwing their popcorn. These are more civilized, I should say.
But Martin's movie habits are being changed by one of the 2 big movie giants in town. Cineplex Odeon is North America's 2nd largest movie chain. It's shutting down the Dunbar, the Varsity on 10th Avenue, the Vogue, and the Odeon on Granville Mall.
No one from Cineplex Odeon would talk to us on camera, but it seems that the old movie theaters just don't make economic sense anymore. The 4 big theaters that are closing seat a total of 2,500 people, but most of the time they're half empty. And there's still the electricity, the rent, and the heat to pay. So instead, the Odeon is opening up this multiplex that has 7 smaller theaters, seat the same number of people, and all under one roof.
Once you get to one theater, you only have to have one manager rather than have a manager at each satellite theater. So one concession area could serve all 7 theaters rather than having a separate concession stand in each one of the 4.
The new 7-plex on Granville Mall will be similar to the 10-screen Royal Centre that opened 3 years ago. Unlike others who don't like the new theaters, Sean Thomas comes to see a movie at the Royal Centre once a week.
Well, this offers variety. I can come and watch 10 movies. For a month I can watch a different movie every time rather than going to a big theater where I can just watch one. And then, once you've seen it once, I don't like to watch a movie again and again.
The multiplexes offer even more than the traditional popcorn and soft drink. The posh surroundings include a lounge area to sit in, special coffees, and an assortment of fresh desserts. Alan Baycroft says that adds to the multiplex's appeal.
There are 10 theaters. You have just about anything to choose from. You don't even have to look at the paper before you go. They have the espresso bar here and the really good desserts, and I find it really convenient.
Baycroft also says he likes the intimacy of the small theaters, and they appeal to those living downtown.
Instead of showing a film on a small screen in a small little room, I think that makes it harder to fight video rather than to show it on a big screen in a big auditorium and make a big production out of it.
Well, yeah, it is like being at home almost. You almost want to get a video instead, but everything isn't out on video.
Nevertheless, Cineplex Odeon is sinking a lot of money into this new theater. It must be betting that the choice of 7 different movies in one location will be enough to convince moviegoers to drive downtown.
Land Back is a CBC original podcast where we uncover land theft in Canada and look at how Indigenous people are taking it all back. Land Back is out now on CBC Listen or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
The 15th annual Latincouver Festival kicks off this July, and CBC Vancouver is proud to be the exclusive media partner. Enjoy a series of sensational Latin American experiences and the popular Carnaval del Sol Festival. And CBC British Columbia launches The Herb Original, a new podcast for Indigenous History Month. All episodes are available now on CBC Listen.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace, installing the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
Our meteorologist Johanna Wagstaff is here now with a full look at the forecast. And Joe, we've had a bit of back and forth with the weather right across BC this week.
Yeah, Tanya, a very changeable weather forecast across the province, which for the most part is good news. That cold front bringing rain along with shifting winds. Let me take you to a snapshot of the watches and warnings across the province late this evening. They will continue to upgrade and drop as that cold front slides east. The thunderstorm watches and warnings have been going since this afternoon, and also the wind warning for the west coast of the island, all associated with this cold front. That's what brought the gusty northwesterly winds to Metro Vancouver, a few lightning strikes crossing the strait, and some pretty good lightning activity to the Kootenays. But it's also bringing some good downpours. So while we will watch for new fire starts, and with the condition of our fuels, some of these may smolder even with the rain, we are getting some good rain. And that rain extends up towards the Peace region, not quite making it to the Donnie Creek fire for a good soaking. You can see in the far northeast, just 5 millimeters, but around the Prince George South Peace region, we are talking at 20 to 25 millimeters, even more for central and northern coastal sections. Metro Vancouver, it was really just a blip for us on the south coast, and we are watching for the slight risk of a thunderstorm behind this front tomorrow in the Okanagan. Generally, a much more stable, breezy and cooler day across the province behind that cold front. These temperatures are all sort of seasonal. We haven't seen that in quite some time, so it'll be nice to get down to the seasonal mark for a couple of days. You can see temperatures around the 19-degree mark for Metro Vancouver next couple of days. Clearing out, though, as we head into Thursday and Friday. There is a chance we'll see showers back for Saturday and Sunday. And then as we head into early next week, things looking decidedly showery. A lot can change this point in the forecast, but it's nice to see a bit more than a blip of rain in the long range. So we'll keep you posted, Tanya.
Indeed, we will have those umbrellas on standby. Thanks so much, Joe. That is your late news for this Tuesday. For news anytime, of course, you can always head to our website. We're at cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition. That's on CBC Radio 1 starting tomorrow morning at 5:30. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great night.